Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the district-wide planning committee. Just before we get into the agenda, I just want to go through some basic housekeeping. We've got a number of speakers here today, and I just want to remind everybody that there's 3 minutes for speaking. If you can try and keep your comments to planning your comments, that'd be really helpful. And that to the committee as well, if we, when we go into the main debate, if we can try and sort of like keep them to planning your comments. Thank you. Item number 1 then, membership of the committee.
Thanks, Chair. I'm Councillor James Homewood. I'm substituting for Councillor Eric Firth.
Councillor John Lawson substituting for Councillor Paola Davis.
Thank you both.
We've also have apologies from Councillor Cahoot and Councillor Moore and Councillor Bellamy, who is speaking in a capacity as a ward member.
Thanks, Andrea. Item number 2 then, minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 10th of July 2025. Do we agree that they're an accurate record? Moved by Councillor Sokol, second by... Item number 3, declarations of interest and lobbying. Councillor Sokol first.
None, Chair.
None, Chair.
None, Chair.
None, Chair.
None, Chair.
Thank you, John. Item number 4, admission of the public. Well, you're all here, so... Item number 5, public questions.
None, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 6, deputations and petitions.
None, Chair.
Okay, item number 7 was the site visit at Birmingham Lane. We only had 1 site visit today, and that was the application that we've got in front of us. That brings us on to the application, page number 7. Danielle, whenever you're ready.
My name is Danielle Cooper and I am presenting this application for the change of use from Class C free dwelling house to mixed use dwelling house and Class EF childminders and single storey rear extension and raised decking. This application is brought to Planning Committee at the request of Councillor Bellamy due to the concern of the scale of the childminders operation and in relation to potential impacts on residential amenity such as noise, parking and general activity levels at the site. 5 objections and 78 support comments have been received, the content of which is summarised and addressed within the committee report. The objections raised are mainly related to concern of noise and additional traffic from the childminder use, as well as the overshadowing impact from the single-storey rear extension. The support comments raised are mainly related to the childminder use satisfying the statutory requirements for provision of sufficient childcare within the local area, which parents are reliant on, and the location being ideal for the customers who live close by. The use of the property during the week as a childminders and the single-storey rear extension and raised decking are all retrospective. The childminders began operating in 2022 and an application has been submitted as a result of an enforcement case as detailed within the committee report. Permission is being sought to regularise the use of the property and extensions erected. The childminders operates Monday to Friday within the hours of 7:30 to 5:30 p.m. There are 4 employees and a maximum of 9 children will be cared for at the property at any one time. The following drawings show the existing and proposed floor and elevation plans. The childminding activities take place partially on the ground floor and first floor is shown in red on the proposed floor plans. The retrospective single-storey rear extension has a projection of 3 metres and a width of 8.4 metres. The overall height of the extension is 5 metres and eaves of 3.8 metres. It is noted that the height of the rear extension is 1 metre above what can normally be constructed under permitted development. However, as the extension is single-storey with a modest projection of 3 metres, it is not considered to result in any adverse visual harm or adverse overbearing and overshadowing impact to residential properties. The proposed rear decking is raised off the ground by 1.3 metres and has a projection of 3 metres. As the rear decking is set in from the shared side boundary with number 44 Birmingham Lane by 1.2 metres and mature hedging is situated in between, acting as a screen, it's not considered that the perception of overlooking will result in any unacceptable levels of loss of privacy. The decking is also set in from number 40 Birmingham Lane by 3.6 metres, and due to the separation distance and the existing garage acting as a buffer, it's not considered that the decking will result in any loss of privacy to number 40 either. It is also noted that Kirklees Council enforcement officers have investigated the single-storey rear extension and did not consider the breach of planning permission to be expedient. The application has been accompanied by a noise impact assessment and management plan which has been reviewed by Environmental Health, who have raised no objection subject to the management plan being complied with. My colleague Ryan will now discuss highway safety matters.
Through you, Chair. Ryan Kinder, Highway Development Management. Notwithstanding the retrospective nature of the application, given the submission of the drop-off and collection policy from the applicant and the fact that this will be secured and enforceable by a relevant planning condition, it is considered that the impact from a highway perspective will be negligible. In addition, for example, if all the children were to be dropped off between the hours of 7:30 and 8:45, this equates to one trip per circa 10 minutes, to which there is sufficient on-street unrestricted parking to the site frontage. It should also be noted that contained within the drop-off and collection policy, a booking time slot is allocated to manage this arrangement. Furthermore, it is more than likely that some trips to the facility will be linked to other children being dropped off at the school, so the traffic generation is already present in that respect. The same arrangement is to be applied for collection of children at the end of the day. Taking all these factors into consideration, the proposal is considered acceptable from a highways perspective, subject to relevant planning conditions. Thank you, Chair.
The following slides are photos of the application site, and on the basis of the assessment as set out in the detail within the committee report, it is concluded that the impact of the partial change of use of the dwelling house and single-storey rear extension and decking is acceptable, subject to the inclusion of the recommended conditions, which are to restrict the maximum number of children to 9, restrict the maximum number of staff to 4, and the childminder use has to operate in accordance with the noise survey and noise management plan, and as Ryan said, it needs to operate in accordance with the drop-off pick-up management plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Danielle. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, the speakers then. So the first speaker I have is Alison Dunville. Good afternoon, Alison. Welcome to the meeting. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. My client has lived in the adjoining property for over 50 years. She's retired and therefore spends a considerable amount of time in her property. Unfortunately, the enjoyment of her home has been severely affected since the applicant started running the childminding business without planning permission 3 years ago. The biggest issue for my client is the intolerable noise associated with the use of the property as a childminding business. National planning policy states that decisions should ensure that new development is appropriate for its location and avoid noise giving rise to significant adverse impacts on health and the quality of life. The applicant cares for up to 9 preschool children during the day, plus older children before and after school. The total number of children being cared for at the property on a daily basis is therefore closer to 15. This is a semi-detached house in a quiet residential area. The scale of the business is simply not appropriate for its location and represents a small-scale nursery rather than a childminding business. The noise impact assessment was found to be acceptable by Environmental Health. However, my client's own noise consultant has reviewed the report and found it lacking in some areas. For instance, the noise survey took place at the applicant's property on one day in April between the hours of 11 and 2:30 during lunchtime and nap time. The staff were also obviously aware the survey was taking place, which would have altered theirs and the children's behaviour. The survey also failed to consider the noise levels associated with the parking activity of parents when dropping their children off. Car doors slamming, engines running, parents and carers talking, etc. My client is often woken at 7:30 by such noise. The noise survey was also based on predicted sound insulation rather than measured sound insulation. My client's lived experience is that any sound insulation that has been installed by the applicant is insufficient and not to a high enough standard to dampen the noise created by the development to an acceptable level. Throughout the day, my client is subjected to noise from children crying, screaming, shouting, running on the hard wooden floors, etc. Children also play outside on the decking area and within the applicant's garden, which creates additional noise. As a result, my client's residential amenity has been significantly compromised since the unauthorised change of use took place. This is contrary to Local Plan Policy LP24, which states that decisions should ensure that developments create a high standard of amenity for existing users. The applicant has built an extension and started running a business from their home without planning permission. My client has therefore zero confidence that should the application be approved, the applicant would adhere to any of the suggested conditions, e.g. the numbers of children, hours of operation, noise mitigation measures or the drop-off pick-up policy. Given the impact on my client's health and well-being, however, we respectfully request that members refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Next speaker, Caroline Hartstone. Good afternoon, Caroline. Welcome to the meeting. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm the daughter of the owner of 44 Birmingham Lane. I would first like to stress to yourselves, the committee, that if you haven't already been given time to fully read the report by MZ8 Acoustics, could you kindly consider deferring a decision until you have done so to help make a robust and accurate decision based on the evidence submitted? Thank you. Next, to address the parking issues, the noise and disturbances it causes, there is limited parking on Birmingham Lane and it's a narrow road. At number 42, there are 4 vehicles parked, 3 on the drive and 1 on the road in front of their property at most times. All belong to number 42. Then there are the 2 extra staff cars also parked on the roadside at 7:30 to 9:30. There is an intensification of vehicle movements of up to 15 vehicles, so the highway safety is impacted by cars parking in whatever space they can find. Not unusually, on the H-bar outside number 44, this causes a loss of residential amenity and impacts the free flow of traffic. To address comments that have been made from other people about loss of employment at number 42, I am reliably informed by members of Meltham Town Council there are premises available to rent in Meltham, so the business of number 42 could continue and potentially expand with more space, giving more child spaces and maybe more job opportunity. There should be no issue with school drop-offs, as the business already transport the children in their cars, the children in their care in their own vehicles. The use of 42 Birmingham Lane as a commercial business has, in my opinion, significantly altered the normal, quite residential character of the immediate area, causing excessive noise, pressure on parking and other activities associated with the business has led to a loss of amenity to my mother and other neighbours. You've also done a site survey today, this morning, and as I have said to before, and it doesn't seem to have been noted, the plans which have been sent in by Mr and Mrs Taylor don't show the new size of the dining room, which is a reduced size. And at the other side, which has made the sunroom, playroom bigger, part of a portion of the wall is non-insulated and has toys and a radiator on it, which is banged on regularly, and the noise is consistent all day and in my mum's dining room. I'd like you to take this into consideration, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Next, we have Margaret.
Good morning.
Spare with us one moment. Yes. Ready whenever you are.
Good morning. I am Margaret Hartshorn, homeowner of 44 Birmingham Lane, 80 years of age, and have lived there for 60 years. The use of my home has been severely disrupted by the nursery at 42 Birmingham Lane, At 7:30, 5 days weekly, I am woken up by the doorbell ringing, car doors banging, front door of building banging when dropping off children. The noise is 15 plus children running on bare wooden floors, banging on walls where toys are stored, screaming, roaring, crying, sliding doors, closing. 4 adults talking, laughing. This continues till 5:30 with a slight respite of maybe an hour. I no longer enjoy the peace and quiet of my garden due to the children playing outside on the raised deck at the back of the property. It is just like having a children's party in my home every day. The nursery is usually open 50 weeks of the year. When I want a quiet time to read, I go into the small front bedroom of my home, away from the main walls of next door. No other complaints from near neighbours, because one was 93 and has gone into a home. But even she said she would not have been able to stand the noise which she could hear if she stood outside. The neighbour at 40 Birmingham Lane is 99 years old and is blind and partly deaf, so he cannot hear noise from children or cars. I don't feel the walls are sufficiently soundproofed, as I can hear all that goes on at 42 Birmingham Lane. The doctors gave me beta blockers to try and help me cope with my situation, and it has not helped. My house does not feel the same anymore and is no longer the safe place it used to be. When I go out, I do not want to come home, but I have to. I live there.
Thank you. Next we have Maxine Taylor. Good afternoon, Maxine. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Ready whenever you are.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Before any consideration is given to my application, I would like to make a statement. I had been running my childminding business for 19 months before I was first approached regarding noise concerns. This came just 3 months after the first complaint we had received in relation to our extension. Despite my repeated efforts to appease my neighbour and her family, it soon became clear that nothing I did would ever be enough. At that stage, I advised them to go directly to Kirklees, not because I wanted to avoid responsibility, but because I recognised I needed professional guidance and support. With more than 10 years of history of involving complaints, I understand that I had to act full transparency and integrity and respect. Since then, we have worked closely with Kirklees throughout the process and have agreed to everything asked of us. We have passed all required checks, including the sound assessments, both independent acoustic tests and Kirklees tests, which confirm that our service will not cause unacceptable disturbance. Importantly, our neighbour, whose first complaint related to noise, was invited to participate in the sound tests, but chose not to respond. I believe this shows that we have gone above and beyond to engage openly and address all concerns. But this application is about far more than my household. At present, provide childcare for 25 families, of all whom depend on the service to balance their work and responsibilities. If my application is not approved, then these families will face real difficulties in finding alternatives. As we know, Meltham is already struggling to meet the demand of childcare spaces, a situation made more challenging since the introduction of the government's free 30 hours child play entitlement. In addition to supporting families, my business also creates opportunities for others. I currently offer 4 full-time job spaces, one of which is filled by someone studying and another by an apprenticeship. We are also directly supporting our local authority with childcare sufficiency, helping to address shortages in our community, and we are contributing to a national wraparound expansion project by offering places that expand support beyond the traditional school day. In closing, I respectfully ask the committee to consider both the fairness of my case and the wider benefits of this service brings. My commitment has always been to act responsibly, to be considerate to those around me, and to support the families and staff who rely on me. With your approval, I can continue to do so, providing stability, opportunity and much needed childcare provision for the community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Maxine. Next, Matt Taylor. Hi, Matt.
Hi. I'm Matt Taylor. I live at 42 Birmingham Lane. I'm reading out a statement from my planning agent who cannot be here. He's on holiday. Good afternoon, Chair and Councillors. I, Paul Matthews, am the agent who was asked to prepare this retrospective planning application for the childcare business and single-storey rear extension at number 42 Birmingham Lane, Meltham. Apologies I can't read this out in person and be available to field any questions. I'm currently away out of the country. My clients received very poor advice from a Kirklees employee who actually prepared the plans for the single-storey rear extension. They have advised my clients that the proposals were permitted development and clearly are not. However, the single-storey rear extension does not result in an unacceptable impact or loss of amenity to the neighbouring property, and it's supported by the planning case officer. Furthermore, we received approval from Kirklees Planning for the same house type, a semi-detached property next door but one, for a significantly larger rear, front and second floor dormer loft conversion, removing the hip and forming a gable. This was approved in November last year. This extension at number 42 is substantially smaller. The documents for this retrospective application provide a robust package illustrating compliance with planning policy, local and national, also ensuring the proposals have no negative impact on highway safety and noise. The application was originally submitted on 16th January 2025. It has had a very thorough assessment with consultations from Kirklees Environmental Health, Pollution and Noise Control, Kirklees Highways and the Planning Case Officer. This application, following the detailed assessment, is recommended for approval by the Kirklees Planning Case Officer. We respectfully ask that as local councillors, you also support this local business and vital service it provides to the local community. If not supported for approval, it could result in the loss of this small business, loss of jobs and loss of the vital service provision. In the event of refusal, my client reserves the right to appeal with a claim for costs given the thorough assessment, compliance with local and national planning policy and the recommendation for approval by the case officer. Many thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you, Matt. Next speaker, Hayley Moore. Hi, Hayley.
Hi. This child and minding service provides a vital community asset. Its closure would necessitate alternative childcare arrangements, creating significant hardship for families in Meltham due to scarcity of local nurseries and child minding options. This would inevitably lead to increased travel distances, escalating fuel costs, and the loss of crucial informal support networks, such as family assistance with school runs. Our family residing nearby benefits significantly from the convenience of walking distance drop-off and pick-up, enabling us to maintain punctual work schedules and minimise local traffic disruption. Our daughter has attended this setting since she was 4 months old and thrives within its care. She consistently enjoys attending and has established strong bonds with her peers and has developed a positive rapport with the dedicated staff. The non-approval of this planning application and subsequent closure of the childminding service would represent a substantial loss for the village and the families it serves. Furthermore, it will result in job losses during a period of economic hardship. We are also concerned about the potential negative impact on our daughter's developmental progress, given her established happiness and settled routine with this setting. Thanks.
Thanks, Hayley. Next, we have Jane. Hi, Jane.
My name's Jane. I'm speaking in support of Sticks and Stones following the recent concerns. The Department for Work and Pensions actively promotes the Get Britain Working agenda. This was set by the government. It was published on 26th of November 2024. £240 million earmarked for tackling economic inactivity and helping people into employment, recognising that access to reliable childcare is a cornerstone in enabling parents to find and sustain employment. In addition, the government has introduced the entitlement of 33 hours free childcare to support working families. This initiative depends on high quality local childcare providers like Sticks and Stones who make it possible for parents to return and remain in the workforce. Despite the pledge, the early years sector is under considerable strain. Declining numbers of childminders and nurseries threaten the ability to deliver on expanding childcare hours, the shortage places the pledge under serious pressure. This legislation is also in alignment with wider policy goals. It helps local authorities achieve child poverty reduction, social mobility and workforce participation targets. Alongside these national objectives, Maxine provides an essential service to the local community. Affordable childcare is in short supply, as we know, and many families rely heavily on this provision to balance work and family responsibilities. Restricting or closing this service would place unnecessary strain on parents and reduce the safe, nurturing opportunities available to children locally. Imagine a town where more parents can afford to work due to free hours. Local nurseries and childminders expand, creating new jobs. Children from low-income families start school ready to learn. The combined effect is stronger families, a healthier local economy, a better long-term prospects for children. 30 hours of free childcare isn't just a family policy, it's a community investment that fuels economic growth, reduces inequality, supports well-being and builds a foundation for the next generation. Given both the compliance with noise standards and the social and economic value of this childcare service, I respectfully urge the committee to support the continuation of Sticks and Stones without restriction. Doing so not only upholds the findings of the independent assessments, but also ensures the community continues to benefit from a vital service that directly supports families, employment, government priorities. Thank you for your time and careful consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Jane. Next, we have Harrison. Hi, Harrison.
Good afternoon. I am here today to express my full support for Maxine and the staff at Sticks and Stones. My child has been attending this facility for over 2 years, and during this time, both we and other families have received tremendous support from Maxine. The staff's contributions to my child's educational, physical and mental development have been exceptional. As I leave my child to go to work each day, I couldn't ask for a more welcoming and inclusive environment. All members of Sticks and Stones are highly respected within the community, and the community would suffer if this application were not supported by the committee. Throughout my child's time with Maxine, I observed that the pick-up times and drop-off times are staggered throughout the day, only allowing a few parents to be present at any given time. Additionally, the report indicates that Maxine has consistently adhered to testing and restrictions. In conclusion, the extension is essential for the business and, by extension, for the community. I respectfully request that the committee positively review this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Hannah Fitzpatrick and I am a parent of a child who attends this childminder setting under review. The concerns range about traffic and noise levels. They don't reflect my experience. In the 2 years my child has attended this setting, I have only crossed paths with another parent 2, maybe 3 times. This is far less disruptive than any other childcare setting I have ever worked at. With respect, I'd like you to consider what happens day to day. Parents drop off quickly and considerately. I have managed to park responsibly outside the setting, in which does not block any residents or the entrance to the school opposite. Secondly, regarding noise levels, again, from my experience visiting the setting, this is nothing harmful to the community. The children are always calm and content. As it is a smaller setting with limited numbers, the sound is no different to what you would expect in a family home. Some families that I care for have 8 children, which is what Maxine probably cares for. It's the natural sound of children playing, laughing and learning. I would also like to highlight the bigger picture. Early years education is not just about the children's learning and development. It's also essential for parents being able to work. With the new government funding, many more parents are able to return to employment. However, the village lacks childcare provision, and Sticks and Stones is vital to our area. If this setting was to close, it would not just impact my family, but many other families in the community who rely on this provision. On top of that, the childminder has spent a huge amount of her time, energy and money to defend her setting. That level of commitment shows her dedication, not just to her business, but to the children and the family that she cares for every day. On a more personal note, my little boy has attended this setting for nearly 2 years. Choosing a childcare provider was not an easy decision for me, as someone with many years' experience in the sector. When I found Sticks and Stones, this felt like from home. My son absolutely thrives here. It is a family-run setting that truly places the children at the heart of everything they do. Forcing this setting to close would also have a massive impact on my child's well-being. It is their safe space, their second home and their family. That is the kind of care and love that every child deserves. It is something, if it is something our community simply cannot afford to lose. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Next, we have Lynn.
Yeah.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. I'm here today as both a local resident as a grandparent of a child who attends a childminding setting. I want to share my experience in hope that it helps you reach a fair and balanced decision. Firstly, I would like to address the issue of traffic raised. I've visited the setting on multiple occasions, morning, dinner, early afternoon and later on in the day. From experience, the traffic in this area is minimal. Parents drop off and pick up is staggered. It is quick, calm and causes no disruption. In fact, I can confidently say that the parking and traffic associated with this nursery, with this setting, is far less of an issue than what happens at my granddaughter's private nursery, where a lot more children and families attend. This impact is minimal and it is well managed. On that note, as the setting is a small and homely environment, the noise levels are much quieter than a typical nursery environment, which is perfect for children who find the busier settings overwhelming. The noise in question is normal, healthy and an essential part of early development. It is concerning that this natural activity is being viewed as a nuisance rather than the sound of our next generation learning. If this setting was forced to close, my son and daughter-in-law will face a difficult task of finding alternative childcare, which is already at a short supply. We cannot afford to lose settings like Sticks and Stones that are already delivering an outstanding service and care. More importantly, my grandson will once again be unsettled and lose the security he has found. This is something I fear could have a very long-lasting effect on his emotion and well-being. Early years childcare is vital for their development. Providers should be supported and celebrated, not discouraged due to minor and manageable complaints. I urge the committee to take this into account and protect the childcare services. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Thank you to all our speakers for staying within the time. Last speaker, Councillor Donna Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. I request this application be brought before the Planning Committee because of the concerns raised by residents in my ward and in my role as Ward Councillor for Owen Valley North. I want to start by saying that I've met with both the applicant and local residents who have expressed objections, and I want to be clear that I do support businesses and childcare services. At the same time, as a ward councillor, I also have the responsibility to ensure that developments in our area are appropriate and that residential amenity of neighbours is safeguarded. My aim is to ensure both. Business and local residents can coexist successfully. Because I brought this application to committee, I've stepped aside from participating in the usual deliberations, and I am speaking solely to represent the perspective of my ward. My intention is not to oppose or delay the business, but to seek clarity and ensure the planning conditions are clear and effective. I would like to highlight a couple of points for the committee's consideration. The planning officer's report sets out a maximum number of 9 children at the property. I would like some clarification on whether this number includes any children of staff members who may also be on site at the same time. Ensuring clarity here is important to avoid ambiguity in enforcing this condition. Secondly, the report notes that the single-storey rear extension and raised decking have been assessed in terms of noise, and the noise impacts assessment and management plan have been submitted. While these measures are welcome, I would like the committee to consider whether a condition requiring soundproofing along the entire party wall will provide additional protection for neighbouring residents, as this could further minimise any potential disturbance and ensure that the development works harmoniously with its surroundings. I have received a copy of the letter commissioned by the objectors reviewing the noise impact assessment, And I raise this purely for the committee's awareness and to check whether it has been seen and considered as part of the decision-making process. I'm not here to comment on its contents, but to ensure that all relevant information is available to the committee. I would also like to raise the issue of parking. The site provides 3 on-site parking spaces, and the applicant has submitted a drop-off pick-up management plan. While I understand that Highways consider this acceptable, I would like the committee to consider whether additional clarity or conditions are needed to ensure that parking and traffic around the property remains safe and does not adversely impact neighbours, particularly during busy school and drop-off and pick-up times. Finally, I appreciate that the planning officer is unable to answer these questions to me directly, but raise them now for committee clarification in order to ensure the conditions are robust, enforceable and clear to both the applicant and local residents. I'm bringing these points forward in, I hope, what is a neutral and constructive spirit. My objective is to support local businesses, but also making sure that concerns of residents are addressed properly. I hope the committee will provide clarity on these points so that everyone involved can move forward confidently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bellamy. Okay, we're over to the main debate then. It's over to the committee for any questions or comments or clarity. Councillor Tony McGrath.
Hi, so I'm one of the ward councillors of Home Valley North, where this application has been submitted from. So just listening to everyone here and having attended the site visit earlier today, I'd just like to sort of make my point. So whilst it's unfortunate that the application is retrospective, having visited earlier today and having asked if there was a hard and fast rule regarding at what point a childminder requires planning permission to continue to operate, there wasn't. It seems quite a grey area, and as such I can understand why this is retrospective and not preemptive, although it would have been nice if, you know, just got it out of the way beforehand rather than get to this point. And the same goes for the extension. Obviously it would have been ideal if, you know, planning was sought before it was built. That being said, we've got professionals here at Kirklees, and the officers have all gone through the noise, the size of the building, and the operation of a childminders, and the professionals are telling us that there's no major breaches, and as such I think they're more in the know than I am, and I'm inclined to agree with them on many levels. However, I do have sympathy for 44 Birmingham Lane regarding the disruption, because previously life was easier, life was quieter, and you want to continue that, especially in the older age that you mentioned. But nobody gets to choose a neighbour, and a noisy neighbour or parent of numerous children can move in without any planning being required. And there's no set number of people that you can prevent. That being said, 9 is above that, but thankfully if this planning application goes through, we can monitor it, we can stop, because I think there was a mention of 15 children at one point. Well, we can now actually enforce that, because if this planning application goes through, it can only be 9, and as such there is positives to this going through that may help you in the long term, rather than it just being an unsolicited number of children. So because of that and the fact it's opposite a school, so there was a mention previously of there are other places available in Meltham that you could rent. Well, yeah, obviously, you know, but that comes with a cost. But also it's not opposite a school. There's no other units directly opposite that school, and that is going to help. So if you're dropping one kid off, it's one door slamming, because you've got one kid dropping off at school and the other one going to the nursery, well, the childminders across the road. So in every way it's an idyllic position for it, but it's not ideal for the neighbours next door, and I completely understand that. But the professionals have sort of given us their advice and said that everything is within the levels it should be, and as such I'm inclined to back this proposal. So I'd like to propose that we agree and grant this application.
Thank you. So we've had a mover to approve delegating powers to officers. The next speaker, Councillor Mohan Sokal, and then Councillor James Homewood.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have been on the site visit this morning with you and all the officers. And I had the opportunity to go inside the building where the children are looked after, and I found it all the children have been well managed by the workers who are working there. I've never seen such a place. Kitchen is one side, a lady is working in the kitchen, other three are looking after the kids. Yeah, extension without extension, I think, and they couldn't provide this nine child care and to accommodate there. I think, as Councillor McGrath said, it would have been better if they had obtained the planning permission bill before that. They known it was. So I'm happy with that, but on the picking up or dropping off, picking up children, I don't think it will make much difference, because there is a school opposite there. The other parents come there, and they pick up and drop. They might be waiting more time than these parents dropping into their child mind care. So I can't find any reason to go against this officer recommendation. Honestly, it's wrong for me to go against it. So I got a sympathy with the community, both sides, and who are in opposite or whatever. They have some concern or some. And I think this childminder is right in the community, right in the residential. We need the childminder care in the community, not outside the community where they have easy access for the parents. If we go against the application, they lose those 4 jobs. It's not only 4 jobs. Those parents who drop their children and who got the job, they might lose the jobs as well. It's not only those people working here. So I'm happy to second already Councillor McGrath had proposed. Thank you.
Did he second that? Yeah. Okay, so it's been formally moved and seconded by Councillor McGrath and Councillor Sokol, Councillor Homewood, and then Councillor Lawson.
Thanks, Chair. I think pretty much I agree with my colleagues. So I appreciate that if you've lived in a residential property, that when there's a change of use, there's going to be more noise than there was before, and I appreciate that has an impact on people. In terms of the traffic, I can't see a problem there. There's obviously a school there, but if anybody who lives near a school, often in residential areas, often without parking, so the idea that you couldn't have a small childminder facility but you could have a school doesn't make any logical sense. In terms of the wider noise impact, my concern would be, I appreciate this, we're talking about a 9-place childcare, so it's a little larger, but it's common to have childminding services in residential areas. It's common to have children's homes in residential areas. It's common to have shops in residential areas. It's even more common now to have nurseries in residential areas. And then there's one in my area that is a nursery that's attached to a semi-detached to a property. So if on noise grounds we're saying you can't have you can do very little in a residential area, which doesn't, to me, align with what happens today across the district, across the country, and isn't reasonable. So to me, like my colleagues, I appreciate there's some noise impact, but I can't see a reason that it should be refused on that basis. So I know it's been moved, so I won't do that again, but I'm supportive of what's been said.
Thank you, Councillor Homewood. Councillor Lawson, and then we'll come to the officers to summarise.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in full agreement with councillors, members of the panel who have already spoken. It is regrettable that we're in this situation. The applicant does need to know that it is a high-risk strategy or even an omission or something that they didn't know about. However we got here, it is high risk. They are on thin ice. We could always say no. That said, this panel is not is not in a position to hand out punitive measures. We do not use planning regulations to hand out punishment. And when we do refuse something like this, it has to be grossly outside of the regulations. It has to be grossly unacceptable for us to refuse it. I think that the recommendations on the conditions in point 12 of the report pack are sufficient. it is a significant reduction in numbers, and I'm glad to see that there are other sets in there, like the traffic management and the hours of operation, and that an adequate noise assessment was done as well. And again, that said, I'd add one last little bit, which is to the applicant. If you are planning on doing anything else, you have to go through the council, of course. And I would hope that if this is passed today, I would hope that the applicant would do its best to build bridges with neighbours and do whatever it can, even if it's something simple like boxing off that radiator that's making all the noise, you know, when the toys are flying around. Then something simple like that will go a long way to ameliorating the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Really good comments. Kirsty?
So I'll just pick up a couple of points. Obviously, I've listened and understand, you know, that this is a balanced decision. Just to clarify that the numbers are. If you just give me 2 seconds. So the opening hours, which we've conditioned, so that's 7:30 till 5:30, Monday to Friday. Condition 4 is to restrict the maximum number of children to 9, but just to clarify that that's a maximum number, and that's not to say that 9 kids are going to be there 7:30 till 5:30. It will be a staggered situation that will happen. There may be cases where, as I say, it's a maximum of 9, and we feel that that's a balance between numbers and the fact that it is a residential property. Again, condition 5 restricts the maximum number of staff to 4, and they will be there available for those children. And 4 seems quite a lot to manage 9 kids, to make sure that the noise levels are acceptable, that type of thing. So it's not like it's one the applicant and 9 children trying to manage that. So just you're that there. But that's not to say that that's any more staff would be excessive, if that makes sense. Number 6 is in accordance with the noise survey and noise management plan, and just to confirm that that has been assessed by our independent environmental health officers in the team, who found it a sound report and didn't have any issues with it, and their recommendation was merely that that the application was approved in accordance with that noise management plan. Then number 7, we've got operation in accordance with the drop-off pickup plan, and that has been assessed by our highways officers. And as we say, this is not something this is quite unusual and quite going further forward than a lot of other child-minding businesses that we have and other small-scale businesses that we have. So, and we find it's acceptable and would be a considered and reasonable condition to put on. And I think what I would say is that if there were any breaches of the planning permission, I'm not suggesting there would be, but there would be the security now. Yes, it is unfortunate, and really unfortunate that it is retrospective, but we now have the benefit of this planning permission and the benefit of these conditions, that were the applicant or the business to go above and beyond that, we would have the mechanisms in place that we don't currently have with these conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty. I mean, I've got nothing to add. I think John summarised it really well. A lot of the comments that I was going to say have been picked up by members. So we've had a mover and a seconder to approve the application. So I think Andrea will go to the vote.
Thanks, Chair. So the vote is to delegate the application to officers to approve. Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Homewood?
For.
Councillor McGraw?
For.
Councillor Lee Richards? For. Councillor Lawson?
For.
And Councillor Uller?
For.
So that's unanimous passed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That brings us to the end of the meeting.